Hey, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. This is Dr. Jason Johnson on my YouTube channel. It has been a couple of weeks. I've been busy. I've been traveling. I was at WNBA All-Star events. I was giving talks at Smithsonian, South Carolina. I was at Comic-Con. I was in I've been to like 5 states, 7 cities in the last couple of days. So, as per the usual, I always say it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. Now I sincerely mean it. It's been a couple of weeks. We are back on schedule. So, for those of you who this is the first time or you may have forgotten, this is 3 Things with Dr. Jason Johnson. In the first minute, we pretty much just lay out what our 3 things are. You will see that on Instagram. You will see that on Twitter, because I'm never going to stop calling it Twitter. You'll see that on Blue Sky. And then we go into our full discussion. Please like, subscribe, and share. I have a lot to talk about today. So, topic 1, important news came out this week, and not talking about Epstein. Talking about Kamala Harris coming out and saying she is not going to run for governor of California. It's very important. I'm going to tell you why. Number 2, this happened about a week and a half ago, but people are still talking about it today. I think it's important. The Jubilee 20 fascists versus Mehdi Hasan adventure that has gone viral. I have some real thoughts about that, also because of my own sort of personal working experiences with one of the people involved. And then number 3, Shannon Sharpe. Club Shay Shay is officially not returning to ESPN. I have feelings. I have thoughts. I have feelings that I've been holding on to for a long time talking about. So those are our 3 things. This is Dr. Jason Johnson. Please like, subscribe, and share. So I'm going to start with this. Vice President Harris went on the Colbert Report, Late Night with Stephen Colbert, all this news that's happened since I've been gone, which is going to be ending at the end of this year, at the end of this current season. Former Vice President Kamala Harris, former Senator Kamala Harris, went on the Late Night show with Stephen Colbert, and she said she is not going to run for governor of California. She didn't completely end any possibility that she might run for president again in 2028. She has a book that she is going to be sort of bringing out and doing a tour at the end of this year. And she says that she, in large part, doesn't want to participate, doesn't want to run for office right now because she thinks the system is broken. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Look, I am not here to criticize the person who I think possibly the majority of Americans wanted to be president instead of the current person in the White House. I'm not going to jump up and down. There's no point. I know lots of people have different philosophies on what is and is not expected of her. But I will say this because I do think this is important. 1, at a basic level, why on earth would she ever want to be the governor of California after having been vice president of the United States? It's not just a demotion, but it's actually, and this is something I don't think a lot of people understand, it is a more dangerous job than it has ever been in the past. If you look at what's been going on with Gavin Newsom and the President of the United States, California is the biggest economy, the largest population in this country. California has more money. It puts more money into the federal coffers than the state of Texas. Texas takes more, blah, blah, blah. California is basically the front line in the internal sort of federal resistance to the Trump regime. Every other week, sometimes weekly, Gavin Newsom is fighting back against the authoritarian regime in Washington, D.C. He's saying, hey, if you don't give us federal funds, we won't turn in our federal taxes. California is a donor state. California is, dealing with basically an attempted invasion when the president sent troops and Marines into Los Angeles. You have the head of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, basically saying that, troops were going to stay in California. All the things that we saw over a month and a half ago, those things would only get worse. They will only get worse as the regime in Washington, D.C. gets more aggressive, gets more dedicated. So if you're running for governor of California, you're not running to just be governor of California. You're basically running to be the front line of the resistance. And is that what Kamala Harris wants to do? And by the way, as much as Donald Trump hates Gavin Newsom, right? Because Gavin Newsom may actually challenge him in 2028. Yes, Donald Trump is going to run again for president in 2028. Imagine the kind of aggression that he would show against Kamala Harris, right? Imagine what this regime would do if California chose Kamala Harris as governor. She knows all of these things. Harris knows that she would be putting a target on her back and the state of California if she were to run for governor, in addition to it being a step down and a demotion from having been vice president of the United States and coming, again, possibly, wink, wink, short of actually winning the White House. So I have no criticism. I have no criticism of her deciding not to run. I also think in general, I don't care if you're a professional, football player, basketball player, whatever it is, lawyer, accountant, cop. If you don't want to do a job no more, I don't want you doing a job where you're not passionate about. So I have no criticism of her not running. What I will say, though, the one teensy thing that I sort of had a problem with in her interview with Colbert was when she said she didn't want to participate right now because the system is broken. And I thought it was very interesting. She's like, I want to go around the country and I just want to listen to people without it being transactional, trying to get their votes. That's a noble idea. I will say, though, if you go around the country and you're just talking to people and listening to them, that just sounds like a book tour. I don't know how, I don't know what else you can call that. You got a book to sell. It's fine. Go sell your book. If your idea, though, is in part you don't want to participate now because the system is broken, I really wish you would have said that more when you were running for president. Now, you can't say that when you're an incumbent. Vice President Harris was going to have a lot of trouble running over the 107 days or whatever it is she had saying, hey, the system is broken because she's part of the system. But the fact of the matter is, and this is the number one criticism that I had during her campaign last year, and a lot of other people, is she was too darn cautious. And she was so concerned about being loyal to Joe Biden when half his campaign and half his administration didn't like her that she didn't strike out on her own. A Kamala Harris that says, hey, the system's broken. Now I'm free. I'm unchained. Let me tell you what I really think. It might have worked better. But be that as it may, she's not running. Good for her. Good for Doug. Let her live in peace because the rest of us will not be. Number two. So a little bit about this. I'm just going to say this up front. Everybody has probably seen these videos now. Jubilee does this sort of thing, and they are a YouTube channel. It's got 14 million whatever it is followers. They got this thing where they'll have 20 conservatives or 20 atheists versus a Christian, or 20 conservatives versus somebody in the LGBTQ community. I think that's literally one of the titles. They do these sort of mock debate contests, and they had a big one that really went viral about a week and a half ago with Mehdi Hasan, who was formerly of Al Jazeera. Then he was with MSNBC, and now he has his own outlet called Zateo. And he debated 20 people, most of whom were just kind of racist, crazy fascists. And there's a lot of discussion of it. A lot of people watched it. I will tell you this up front. I always say this non-disclosure. I know Mehdi. I don't know him well. We're not friends. We're not like buddies. I don't call him on the phone, but I have worked with him. I worked with him when I was at Al Jazeera. I worked with him a bit when I was at MSNBC. I always think that telling people that how you know people is important for the purposes of disclosure, especially if you're doing commentary. And I say that because I want to say that objectively, I think Mehdi is a really, really, really good journalist. And he prides himself on being an excellent debater. I mean, the guy just wrote a book called How to Win Every Argument All the Time, right? So that's the premise here. And he and I don't always agree, and we had some serious disagreements going back into 2020 when it came to Bernie Sanders and things like that. But again, objectively, I actually think he's a very good journalist, and he is objectively an excellent debater. I thought that what happened on Jubilee was a mistake. It was a mess. It was garbage. And I was kind of disappointed in a lot of it. And it's in part because I was fooled. As somebody who's seen Jubilee debates in the past, I remember seeing the one with Jordan Peterson against 20 atheists. And that was an excellent debate. Jordan Peterson won some of those encounters. He lost some of those encounters. It's worth taking a look at. I don't agree with Jordan Peterson on a lot. I'm not going to question whether or not he was a devout Christian, but it was clear that the people he was arguing against were deeply knowledgeable about Christianity and other issues of faith, and they were very confident and comfortable in their positions of atheism, and they were able to have a substantive debate with him. A debate where sometimes you didn't know which side you agreed on, whether you were a Christian or not. That's what I thought Jubilee was going to give us. But instead, what they did with Mehdi was pretty close to what they did when they had Candace Owens versus 20 liberals. Candace Owens is a clown and a joke, but Candace Owens has a career of saying ridiculous things and sort of gaslighting people, and she is a professional media person. So 20 passionate liberals who are just randomly grabbed off the streets, who are vetted by Jubilee, probably can't win, depending on how you define it, a debate with Candace Owens because she knows how to do this, right? So when you get to Mehdi Hasan, yes, he's very smart, and yes, he won the debate against most of these people, But really, it just looked like they platformed a bunch of neo-Nazis. Like, I mean, you had people literally saying, I'm a fascist. You had people who were so angry that they had to respect his existence. You had men who were almost spitting with rage that this brown Muslim American man was sitting in front of them with an accent. They hated everything about it. It was very difficult to watch, quite frankly. And after a certain point, and by a certain point, I mean about 6 minutes into it, I kept skipping because I was like, I just can't watch this through and through. At a certain point, it seemed very clear to me that this was less about a conflict of ideas and more about sort of just a poop flinging contest where these people were flinging poop at this qualified, competent man, and he was forced to remain calm. There's certain networks that have engaged in that kind of behavior. I don't like it. I think it's sort of exploitative. I think in some respects it is a waste of the skill set that Mehdi Hasan brings to the table. You could have him talk to a bunch of fascists. You could have him talk to a bunch of white nationalists and neo-Nazis. It's not like he hasn't done it in the past, but a bunch of unqualified neo-Nazis who are basically like, get out of here, I hate you. People who are just functionally wrong on what it is to be a Native American. I don't see how that helps anybody. I don't see how that helps public discourse. And if Jubilee is going to continue to do that sort of thing, and look, hey, maybe this is the version of a modern day TED Talk, right? Maybe the new thing now is if you're a conservative talker or you're a debater, you go there and you have 20 incompetent people sit there and try and provoke you. I guess I don't find that interesting. I don't find that productive for public discourse. I don't find that he talked to a bunch of ignorant, foolish, violent, vulgar people. I don't know how that lifted anyone's education. Maybe it was catharsis, but it wasn't really for me. Now, number 3. The Shannon Sharpe news. I preface this by saying I am on record. I said this when this whole sort of Shannon Sharpe thing broke several months ago, when it was made public that a young woman who was 19, 21 years old or something else like that was basically accusing him of assault and abuse, and she had a lawyer and she was seeking a settlement, all these kinds of things. And I said at the time, I didn't know if I thought that Shannon Sharpe was actually going to lose his job at ESPN. I didn't know, because it seemed like as a culture, the vulgarity that we have allowed, the Joe Rogans and the Theo Vaughns and the Dave Portnoys, the sports culture has so been attacked and influenced by these sort of MAGA folks, right? The Matt Walshes, whatever. I mean, even Matt Walsh was like, I don't believe this woman. I didn't know that I thought anything was going to happen to Shannon Sharpe. I thought, ESPN, he makes a lot of money. He has viral videos all the time with his interviews. I thought they would just sort of sit and be quiet and let him come back. Well, he announced his settlement this week. He is paying $23 million to settle with this young woman who had an OnlyFans page. I'm not saying that to diminish her entire existence, but that seemed to be her primary employment, at least from what I've been able to understand. And then she announced after he settled for $23 million that she was retiring from OnlyFans and has other projects that she wants to do. Well, hey, good on her. He did choose to settle. He didn't want to go to court. Here's the thing about all of this. And I'm not going to, again, I don't like beating dead horses, and I don't count other people's pockets. I don't know how much money Shannon Sharpe has. It's not my business how much Shannon Sharpe has. What I'm interested in is this larger sort of discussion we have in this country about race, gender, sex, consequences, et cetera, et cetera. Do I think ESPN had a right? ESPN can hire and fire whoever they want. This is not a rights issue, right? This isn't even a sort of a business issue on some levels, because frankly, I don't know the behind the scenes machinations. I don't know how much money they think this costs them, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just going to talk about it from the standpoint of being a black person in public light, and certainly a black man in public light. I mean, we got everybody from Cat Williams to Monique warn this person. And I don't know how many different times, and look, every single person in the public eye has to be careful. I'm not condemning Shannon Sharpe. Let me be clear. I am not condemning Shannon Sharpe. I don't know if he was guilty or not, because there was never a trial and no evidence presented. All we saw were text messages exchanged between him and this young woman. We have her side, which is this was abusive. We have his side, which was consensual. He settled. Who knows what that actually means? That's not an admission of guilt. That's not an admission of innocence. That is somebody making the realization that the trial will be of no greater benefit than having the story end. But what I can say is that we always have to understand that the standards that black people are held to in the public sphere are not the same as white people who are in the public sphere. And I can give this perfect example. You know, there are many, many, many celebrities, many white male celebrities who have been, I don't like this term, so I won't say credibly accused, because credibly accused doesn't mean anything, who have been accused of violence, who have been accused of abusing their spouses. Some of them have hit movies on the air right now, in theaters right now, who were accused of being abusive to their wives and to their children, etc., and they've more or less skated by. I don't think anybody should skate by if they have committed acts of domestic violence or abuse against a partner. I don't think anybody should be allowed to become a famous movie star if you beat someone as a youth in an act of sort of Asian hate in Boston 30-something years ago. I think a lot of people have done terrible things that they have to face consequences for, and many, many of them don't. But I think the operative lesson in all of this, and most black people would sort of agree, is that Shannon Sharpe unfortunately harmed his own career by engaging in behavior that even other media peers warned him against. That's not something to laugh about. That's not something to condemn him for. It's actually something that's very sad. I wish that we lived in a world where people make wiser decisions. I wish we lived in a world where everybody who committed heinous acts was treated fairly. I wish we lived in a world where the determination of heinous acts was not based on race or gender, but just on character or the nature of the abuse or the alleged abuse. But unfortunately, we don't live in that kind of world. And Shannon Sharpe is facing the consequences of that. So those are the three things. As I said, Kamala Harris is not running for governor. I say good on her. Mehdi Hasan did the Jubilee. Look, I will tell you, I don't necessarily think these Jubilee things are that good. If they ever come to me one day, I would seriously consider saying no. If you want me to debate 20 people about Marvel versus DC, fine. I'll take the Marvel or the DC side. But I think if you're going to talk about something as serious as fascism and immigration and human rights and all sorts of other kinds of issues, you should have qualified people on both sides. And lastly, at the end, Shannon Sharpe, unfortunately, it is a cautionary tale about how people need to be more responsible in their personal lives when unfortunately you are in the public sphere, and may not be fair, but it's what comes with the job. Anyway, thank you so much. This is Dr. Jason Johnson, YouTube. I will be back soon. We won't have another 2-week break. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you Sunday when I will be sitting in and hosting with Eugene Daniels and Maria Teresa Kumar on the weekend show on MSNBC, and then next week, I'll be hosting again. I'll let you guys know when. Bye-bye.